dear ones, and welcome. We'll start our Kirtan in a couple minutes. Let's just meditate until just after 7, and we'll start with a prayer together. Welcome, dear ones, to our Kirtan and Stories. Let's begin now with a prayer together. Please pray with me. Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
beloved friend God,
beloved friend God,
great masters of
of
self-realization, Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Swami Sri Yukteswarji,
Swami Sri Yukteswarji,
beloved Guru,
beloved Guru,
Paramhansa Yoganandaji,
Paramhansa Yoganandaji,
saints and sages of all religions,
saints and sages of all religions,
lovingly we bow at thy feet.
lovingly we bow at thy feet.
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
we are your instruments.
we are your instruments.
Flow through us
Flow through us
with your divine song
with your divine song
and music.
and music.
Fill us with thy joy,
Fill us with thy joy,
that we may share it with others.
that we may share it with others.
Om,
Om.
peace.
Peace.
Amen. This evening we'll chant together and have a short meditation. We'll tell some stories, and we'll conclude with more chanting after the stories. We thought to give this kirtan a theme, and this is indicative of sort of I don't know, I kind of feel like this is the theme of this year in a sense. Transitions. It's a transition year of so much has changed. 6 months basically have gone by that we've had a changed world to one degree or another. And, lives interrupted, lives ended, new souls coming in, old souls going out. It's just a year of lots of changes. And so this evening we'll chant in that spirit. We'll chant to the blessing of those souls who have left. And a number of the chants sort of relate to that in one sense or another. And we'll tell some stories also in that spirit. But just feel the joy of knowing that all the drama of this world is for our benefit. Yes, it's for our education, but it's also for our enjoyment. It's also for us just to simply enjoy the show. Enjoy, just like they say, I mean, back in the old days when someone would introduce the movie, the last thing they would say is enjoy the show. And everybody's got their popcorn and everybody's got their whatever, and they're all sitting back, and the kids are eager for the cartoon to start and the adults are eager for the whatever to play, and enjoy the show. So let's all of us enjoy the show and enjoy the blessing of knowing that we're in the hands of God wherever, whenever, however, and enjoy that sense of peace within. There'll be little pauses between the chants, sometimes a few seconds, sometimes even up to a minute. And when the chants go really deep inwardly, we don't want to just plunge into another one right away. We want to sort of absorb that and assimilate that inwardly. So we'll take a little time. There'll be one meditation of maybe 5 minutes or something after 4 or 5 chants. And then we'll tell stories after that. But take those moments of stillness as your opportunity to really make the chant your own. Let it become your chant, not just something that Dharmadas and Nirmala are singing to you, but we're singing with you, but we're also, the chant itself has a life, and let that the life of that chant be planted in your heart in such a way that it can take root and become part of your own being and your own nature and your own deep, deep spiritual experience. So we'll begin this evening with Door of My Heart, the beautiful chant that was originally in Bengali, and Yogananda brought it to us in America, in the West, and translated it into English. And just feel this is a chant that Swamiji was kind of his sort of chant of choice for many, many, many years toward the end of his life.
And he himself put chords to it. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? Just for once come to me. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? Just for once come to me. Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Night and day, night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? Just for once come to me. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? Just for once come to me.
Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, night and day, I look for thee, night and day, night and day, night and day. I look for thee, night and day. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Wilt thou come, wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Wilt thou come, wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, night and day, I look for thee, night and day, night and day, night and day. I look for thee, night and day. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Wilt thou come, wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Wilt thou come, wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, night and day, I look for thee, night and day, night and day, night and day. I look for thee, night and day, night and day, night and day. I look for thee, night and day, night and day, night and day. I look for thee, night and day. Open wide, I keep for thee. Let's sing Rest in God. We'll sing Rest in God, Live in God, in His joy, in His love, and in His light. This is a song that Swami Kriyananda wrote for the funeral of a lady who lived at Ananda Village many years ago in the 1980s. Rest in God, live in God, in His light, in His joy. Rest in God, live in God, in His joy, in His joy. Rest in God, live in God, in His light, in His light. Rest in God, live in God, in His light, in His light. Rest in God, live in God, in His love, in His love. Rest in God, live in God, in His joy, His joy. Rest in God, live in God, in His joy, in His joy. Rest in God, live in God, in His light, in His light. Rest in God, live in God, in His light, in His light. Rest in God, live in God, in His love, in His love. Rest in God, live in God, His joy, in His joy. Rest in God, live in God, His joy, in His joy. Rest in God, live in God, His light, in His light. Rest in God, live in God, His light, in His light. Rest in God, live in God, His love, in His love. Rest in God, live in God, His love, in His love. Rest in God, live in God, His joy, His joy. We'll sing, I have made thee pole star of my life. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, still I see the path through thy mercy.
I have made thee pole star of my life. I have made thee pole star of my life. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, still I see the path through thy mercy. Still I see the path through thy mercy. I have made thee pole star of my life. I have made thee pole star of my life. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, still I see the path through thy mercy. Still I see the path through thy mercy. I have made thee pole star of my life. I have made thee pole star of my life. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, still I see the path through thy mercy. Still I see the path through thy mercy. I have made thee pole star of my life. I have made thee pole star of my life. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, still I see the path through thy mercy. Still I see the path through thy mercy. I have made thee pole star of my life. I have made thee pole star of my life. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone. My sea is dark and my stars are gone. Still I see the path through thy mercy. Still I see the path through thy mercy. I have made thee pole star of my life. I have made thee pole star of my life. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, still I see the path through thy mercy. Still I see the path through thy mercy. I have made thee pole star of my life. I have made thee pole star of my life. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, still I see the path through thy mercy. Still I see the path through thy mercy. I have made thee pole star of my life. I have made thee pole star of my life. I have made thee pole
We'll have a short meditation after this next chant. This is, my Lord, I will be thine always. I may go far, farther than the stars, but I will be thine always. Devotees may come, devotees may go, but I will be thine always. When I die, look into mine eyes. They will mutely say, I will be thine always. I may go far, farther than the stars. I may go far, farther than the stars. But I will be thine always. My Lord, I will be thine always. Devotees may come, devotees may go. Devotees may come, devotees may go. But I will be thine always. My Lord, I will be thine always. When I die, look into mine eyes. When I die, look into mine eyes. They will mutely say, I will be thine always. My Lord, I will be thine always. I may go far, farther than the stars. I may go far, farther than the stars. But I will be thine always. My Lord, I will be thine always. Devotees may come, devotees may go. Devotees may come, devotees may go. But I will be thine always. My Lord, I will be thine always. When I die, look into mine eyes. When I die, look into mine eyes. They will mutely say, I will be thine always. My Lord, I will be thine always. I may go far, farther than the stars. I may go far, farther than the stars. But I will be thine always. My Lord, I will be thine always. Devotees may come, devotees may go. Devotees may come, devotees may go. But I will be thine always. My Lord, I will be thine always. When I die, look into mine eyes. When I die, look into mine eyes. They will mutely say, I will be thine always. My Lord, I will be thine always. My Lord, my Lord, I will be thine always. Let's meditate for a few minutes. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So we'll share a few stories now. And I think Nirmala will go first. And I will man the camera and get it pointed in the right direction here.
So, our theme tonight is transitions. And now that it's September and fall is beginning, it's a good time to go more inward and also just to think of this as the seasons of life. We have friends who are struggling. We know dear people who are making their transition out of this world. And that's part of the cycle of life, going from outward activity, symbolized by summertime. New life is spring. Outward activity is summer. Fall is starting to draw more inward, and the winter of life is to become more serene and centered within. And so, in thinking of transitions, we also think about the transition from this world. There's a story I love from the Mahabharata in which Yudhisthira, who is the king of Dharma, his father was Dharma himself, is asked this question. And he is asked, what is the most amazing thing on earth, in this world? What is it? And his answer is humanity is on all sides is shown death. Death is all around us all the time. And yet we think we will never die. And it's very true. We're conscious, and so we cannot imagine not being here. And in a sense, we don't die. The soul never dies. There's that beautiful passage in the Bhagavad Gita that says, the soul is what we really are, and it can't be burned up. It can't be dampened by waters. It can't be cut by blades. It can never, ever die. And it goes on to say that everything that's born must die, and that which is dead must be born again. The beginning of life is not shown, nor is the end shown, only the middle. Only this life is shown. But there's so much more before we come into this life and after. So our job is to free our consciousness from this prison of the body and be ready to soar in spirit. Swami Kriyananda used to say that it's a very good practice to, if you're in the shower and you're washing your arm, to think, someday this body will be gone. Not just somebody's arm will be ashes, will be dust, but this arm, this body will be gone, and our spirit will live on and be free. So I wanted to share just a couple of wonderful stories. These are all from a book that we very much enjoy, and I have read it many times. It's called Graceful Exits, and it tells stories about great souls, saints, and ascended masters. There's Lahiri Mahashaya is in this book, Yogananda is in this book, Ramakrishna, I'm about to tell a story about him. Many great saints, and the stories of how they left their bodies. It's very inspiring. In 1885, Ramakrishna developed a cancer of the throat and steadily grew worse. On August 15th of the following year, realizing that his end was near, Ramakrishna assured his wife, Sarada Devi, that she would be all right and to care for his young disciples. He died the very next day. In his last days, he addressed himself, saying, "O mind, do not worry about the body. Let the body and its pain take care of each other. Think of the Divine Mother and be happy." After the cremation of his body, his wife Sarada was removing her jewelry, as Hindu widows do, when Ramakrishna appeared to her. In the vision, he told her not to remove her jewelry, assuring her that he had not gone away, but had only passed from one room to another. Confident of his continual presence with her, the Holy Mother, as she was known to her devotees, committed herself to teaching and guiding the young disciples who had been left in her care. This is a quote by Ramakrishna. "The body and the soul, the body was born and it will die, but for the soul there is no death. It is like the betel nut. When the nut is ripe, it does not stick to the inside of the shell, but when it is green, it is stuck there and it is difficult to separate from the shell. After realizing God, one does not identify anymore with the body. Then one knows the body and the soul are two very different things." 5 days before her own death, 34 years later, Sarada Devi, Ramakrishna's wife, made a significant utterance while consoling a visiting devotee who had sobbed out, "Mother, what will happen to us hereafter?" In a very low voice, promptly came the reassuring words, "Why do you fear? You have seen the Master." Then, after a pause, she solemnly added, "But I tell you one thing. If you want peace of mind, do not find fault with others. Rather, see your own faults. Learn to make the whole world your own. No one is a stranger, my child. This entire world is your own." On the eve of her departure, the mother said, "I am going. The rest are here. Yogen, you look after them." He was her foremost disciple. On July 20th, 1920, at 1:30 a.m., the Holy Mother, in a final ecstasy, left the physical world. And I'll tell you one more story. This is also from the same book, Graceful Exits. There was an abbot of a monastery. When he felt it was time for him to go, he had his head shaved, took a bath, put on his robe, rang the bell to bid farewell to the community of monks, and sat up until he breathed no more. To all appearances, he had died. Thereupon, the whole community of monks burst out crying grievously, as little children do at the death of their mother. Suddenly the master opened his eyes and said to the weeping monks, "We monks are supposed to be detached from all things transitory. In this consists true spiritual life. To live is to work, to die is to rest. What is the use of groaning and moaning?" He then ordered a quote, stupidity purifying unquote meal for the whole community, a stupidity purifying meal for the whole community. After the meal, he said to them, "Please make no fuss over me. Be calm as befits a family of monks. Generally speaking, when anyone is at the point of going, he has no use for noise and commotion." Thereupon, he returned to his room where he sat in meditation until he passed away.
So I will also tell a few stories, and normally we'll change the camera position here. And I'm going to begin with a story that's um, a little bit different, a little disconnected seeming to that particular topic, but it is actually connected. This goes back to when my sister and I have a twin sister, so you'll almost know if I ever refer to my age at a particular time, it's we, when we were 5 or when we were whatever. So, because we were marching along in lockstep there, you might say. So when we were about 5 or 6 years old, we took a trip to the Washington, D.C. area and stayed with some relatives there who were just wonderful. I mean, we just had the best time. And, you know, this was a big deal to be away from our parents. But I mean, these an aunt and an uncle, and they were so loving and they were so sweet and they took us everywhere and they bought us ice cream and etc. I mean, it was just a hoot. So one of the things they bought us was a couple of helium balloons, the nice big ones. I mean, I have no idea now, when you're a little kid, something that seems this big might actually have only been the size of a basketball or whatever. But anyway, to us, it was a big balloon. Well, one of them got away from us. It's probably mine, knowing me. And oh, the feeling of loss and the blasted thing, they go up past the top of the trees in about 3 seconds. I mean, and these are big trees in this huge, beautiful park. I have no idea where we were, but just watching this balloon, I mean, and it just goes and disappears. And it's like, I mean, the sense of, we probably burst out crying and, and maybe they bought us another balloon. I don't know, whatever. Even now, it's been decades, many decades. And I still remember this pain of losing that stupid balloon. And, you just think kids are sooner or later they will experience. I mean, we see this in the life of Buddha. His father, when he was a prince born, in a royal house. His father was determined because there were two paths open to this prince. His astrological chart said he either becomes a renunciate and a saint, or he becomes a great king. And so the dad was determined, okay, he's going to become a great king where he's going to follow in my line. This is what we're going to do. And he protected him from seeing any suffering, any death, any old age. Nothing decrepit. So it was all youthful. It was all beautiful, no ugliness. And except that one fine day after he was maybe a teenager, he got out of, sort of slipped his leash, slipped his collar, and got out and, and actually saw people who were dying, saw a funeral procession, and wondered, what is all this? And he had never understood that. And it's, we can try to protect ourselves from that sense of loss. But it's something that every soul has to confront in one way or another, in one time or another, whether it's the loss of a silly balloon or, the ice cream cones that fell on the ground and are now covered with ants. It's like any, I mean, I can remember losing a monopoly piece, the cherished shoe or car in the monopoly game, and and what happened to it nobody knows, or the favorite puzzle is now missing a piece right in the center of the puzzle, and so you can do the whole blasted thing, but there's that one piece missing. And any, those niggly little things, the loss of a favorite little toy or something. I mean, I think I had a chess set that had a broken bishop, and I glued the bishop together, but the darn thing always bugged me that I had this broken bishop. And it's like we have to confront the loss of things that we think are precious, but then later it becomes the loss of people that we think are precious and that are our own. And so we read the story of Yogananda losing his mother at the age of 11. I lost a grandfather at the age of almost the age of 12, so almost pretty much the same age. And I remember that was a really pivotal thing. I had never seen death before. We were not present when he left the body. He left the body in church, which is a very, if you think how unusual that is, he sang a hymn and sat down and slumped over and had a heart attack and he was gone. And it was a massive heart attack and he was just poof, he's just gone. And you know, I mean, anyone looking at his condition, he had a heart condition and it had been developing for some years. So, on one level, it was not, shouldn't perhaps have been a surprise. And on another level, it was a shocking surprise. And I remember spending time at the funeral home. I would walk sometimes to that funeral home by myself because, the family was all in turmoil. I mean, this, trying, getting my grandmother organized to try to live her life without him, which she went on to live another 25, 30 years afterwards. And she was not prepared for that. I don't even think she had a driver's license at that point. And all of those changes that happened, so the family was all occupied, but I would walk 5 or 10 blocks over to the funeral home in the days prior to his burial, and I just was there. I just would spend time. And of course his body looked different. I mean, it was very strange. It was very kind of confusing to think that you know that body somehow was my grandfather, and now it was different, odd, sort of shaped different or whatever. It's just strange, but somehow I was drawn to try to understand, to try to penetrate the mystery of death. And I think that's a natural journey, a natural kind of question that everyone faces at one time or another. And so in these stories that Nirmala was sharing, we run into that also. I love this last story of the abbot of the monastery who says he rings the bell, it's time for him to leave, and he stops breathing and everybody starts wailing and moaning, and then he comes back and it's like, come on, act like monks, for crying out loud. When someone's leaving the body, they really have no use for all this commotion and moaning and groaning. And so then you sort of visualize that they all found their spines again. And, it's like, okay, okay, let's, remember who we are and what we're about here. But if we think about it, what I find it so endearing in these stories, and that those are just three among many, And in Autobiography of a Yogi, Yogananda shares a number of instances where one of the saints of the line of Lahiri Mahashaya is preparing to leave the body, and he's trying to console the disciples, who are, of course, terribly distraught about this. And he's basically saying the same thing. Look, I'm just going into the next room. I'm just going to be nearby. It's not like I'm going away from you. I live in your heart. I live in your consciousness. I have felt, we felt the loss of Swami Kriyananda very keenly. We got to know him personally, which it's a very interesting conundrum. We'll talk more about this next week on the anniversary of his discipleship, which comes up on September 12th. This will be the 72nd anniversary, I guess, of his taking discipleship to master. But knowing someone personally, in a way, is a kind of liability, because at some point the nature of this world, the nature of the process of growth, takes us all away from this world. And so it's like the ego has to be broken. The sense of connection to this body, to these circumstances, to the surroundings, to the people that we've known, that has to get broken. And it's very uncomfortable. We resist that in this culture, especially. We won't even talk about it. I mean, it's like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a very scary subject. And yet, it is the most natural thing in the world. Death is a part of life. And we better get used to it, because there's no help for it. Now in this year, having lost, coming up on 200,000 people. I mean, it's 180 something thousand people to this disease. And in another sense, we're going to lose everyone who's alive today in 100 or 200 years will be gone. So, I mean, it's really just a question of time. Yesterday, I was sharing in a video that we have relatives who are preparing to leave the body. And but then of course, we're all preparing to leave the body. It's just purely a question of time. If you think you have 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that's one thing. If you think you have 20, 30, 40 minutes, that's another thing, or 20, 30, 40 days or hours or whatever. I mean, it's like it's all a question of time. And so we would do well, as Nirmala was suggesting, with the when you're washing your arm, taking Swamiji's observation, realize, don't even just think this body will be dust, this body will join the earth. Realize that, because it's just helpful to disengage a little bit. We have to act with great enthusiasm and fervor in the world, in all the service that we do. But at the end of the day, we have to light the bonfire and throw all the attachments, all the little burrs that got stuck to the heart, all the little clinging, sticky stuff that says, no, but I'm stuck to you now. You're mine. We're all stuck together here. Have to patiently peel them off, throw them into the fire, and say, Divine Mother, they belong to you. All the dear people, all the dear souls, they belong to God. And to know, and this is the hard part, because the human side feels that loss keenly when they're gone. And and that pain can last for decades afterwards. But the message is not a message of torture. The divine is not saying, yes, I'm torturing you. That's my message to you, is I'm just here to torture you. The message is, know that I'm always with you. And I wore that form for a while, and I became very connected to you, very familiar to you in an outward sense. But on another level, we can't know each other until we become one. And so, thinking of the different dear ones who either have left or are preparing to leave, I think of it as a graduation. It's like they're getting ready to graduate. They're getting ready to move beyond these circumstances, these self-definitions, and grow into a whole new light. And, you know, feel that sense of freedom from all the life that they've built in this world, and realize that the infinite is their home. And, how big is the heaven that you will live in? Well, how big is your imagination? How big is your devotion? How big is your expanded heart's awareness? It can be infinite. And so the divine is challenging us to do that. So, anyway, those are just a few little short snippets. I could go on and on and on, but I think we'll have another chant now. Yeah. So this chant is, from this sleep, Lord, will you wake me? In thee I dive, in thee I rise, in thy sea, in thee. From this sleep, Lord, will you wake me? In thee I am born, in thee I die, to rise for to live forever in thee. From this sleep, Lord, will you wake me? From this dream, Lord, will you wake me? In thee I dive, in thee I rise, in thee I dive, in thee I rise, in thy sea, in thy sea, in thee. From this sleep, Lord, will you wake me? From this dream, Lord, will you wake me? In thee I am born, in thee I die, in thee I am born, in thee I die, to live forever in thee, to live forever in thee. From this sleep, Lord, will you wake me? From this dream, Lord, will you wake me? In thee I dive, in thee I rise, in thee I dive, in thee I rise, in thy sea, in thee, in thy sea, in thee. From this sleep, Lord, will you wake me? From this dream, Lord, will you wake me? In thee I am born, in thee I die, in thee I am born, in thee I die, to live forever in thee, to live forever in thee. From this sleep, Lord, will you wake me? From this dream, Lord, will you wake me? From this sleep, Lord, will you wake me? From this dream, Lord, will you wake me? So we'll sing Lord When in Darkness, Dio nella notte. I'll sing first in Italian and then in English. Dio nella notte, Dio nel buio, seguirò sempre te. Dio nella notte, Dio nel buio, seguirò sempre te. Quando mi perdo, quando piango, so che tu sei con me. Quando mi perdo, quando piango, so che tu sei con me. Vivo solo per amarti, oh Signore. Vivo solo per amarti, oh Signore. Dio nella notte, Dio nel buio, seguirò sempre te. Dio nella notte, Dio nel buio, seguirò sempre te. Quando mi perdo, quando piango, so che tu sei con me. Quando mi perdo, quando piango, so che tu sei con me. Vivo solo per amarti, oh Signore. Vivo solo per amarti, oh Signore. Lord, when in darkness, Lord, in confusion, always I'll follow thee. Lord, when in darkness, Lord, in confusion, always I'll follow thee. If I grieve or lose my way, only thou canst comfort me. If I grieve or lose my way, only thou canst comfort me. All I live for is to love thee, my eternal friend. All I live for is to love thee, my eternal friend. Lord, when in darkness, Lord, in confusion, always I'll follow thee. Lord, when in darkness, Lord, in confusion, always I'll follow thee. If I grieve or lose my way, only thou canst comfort me. If I grieve or lose my way, only thou canst comfort me. All I live for is to love thee, my eternal friend. All I live for is to love thee, my eternal friend. All I live for is to love thee, my eternal friend. All I live for is to love thee, my eternal friend. It's not going to die any. That's not the light. It's fine. So do you want to change it back, the camera back though? So we could do Divine Love Sorrows. So we'll sing Divine Love Sorrows.
This was a popular song in Yogananda's day. It's called Liebeslied. And so he put spiritual words to this song. I have been roaming, I have been roaming, forsaken by thee, who has seen me groping, hardly ever answering. I shall be roaming, roaming, I shall be roaming, roaming, bursting all boundaries apart, evermore moving towards thee, to thy vast and throbbing heart. Through endless incarnations, I've called out for thy name. Through endless incarnations, I've called out for thy name. Searching by the streamlet song all my silvery dreams. Searching by the streamlet song all my silvery dreams. I have been roaming, I have been roaming, forsaken by thee, who has seen me groping, hardly ever answering. I shall be roaming, roaming, I shall be roaming, roaming, bursting all boundaries of heart, evermore moving towards thee, to thy vast and throbbing heart. Through endless incarnations, I've called out for thy name. Through endless incarnations, I've called out for thy name. Searching by the streamlets of all my silvery dreams. Searching by the streamlets of all my silvery dreams. I have been roaming, I have been roaming, forsaken by thee, has seen me groping, hardly ever answering. I shall be roaming, roaming, I shall be roaming, roaming, bursting all boundaries of heart, evermore moving towards thee, to thy vast and throbbing heart. Through endless incarnations, I've called out for thy name. Through endless incarnations, I've called out for thy name. Searching by the streamlets of all my silvery dreams. Searching by the streamlets of all my silvery dreams. I have been roaming, I have been roaming, forsaken by thee, who has seen me groping, hardly ever answering. I shall be roaming, roaming, I shall be roaming, roaming, bursting all boundaries of heart, evermore moving towards thee, to thy vast and throbbing heart. Through endless incarnations, I've called out for thy name. Through endless incarnations, I've called out for thy name. Searching by the streamlets of all my silvery dreams. Searching by the streamlets of all my silvery dreams. I have been roaming, I have been roaming, forsaken by thee, who has seen me groping, hardly ever answering. I shall be roaming, roaming. I shall be roaming, roaming, bursting all boundaries of heart, evermore moving towards thee, to thy vast and throbbing heart. Through endless incarnations, I've called out for thy name. Through endless incarnations, I've called out for thy name. Searching by the streamlets of all my silver dreams. Searching by the streamlets of all my silver dreams. I have been roaming, forsaken by thee, who has seen me groping, hardly ever answering. I shall be roaming, roaming. I shall be roaming, roaming, bursting all boundaries of heart, evermore moving towards thee, to thy vast and throbbing heart. I shall be roaming, roaming. I shall be roaming, roaming, bursting all boundaries of heart, evermore moving towards thee, to thy vast and throbbing heart. I shall be roaming, roaming. I shall be roaming, roaming, bursting all boundaries of heart, evermore moving towards thee, to thy vast and throbbing heart, evermore moving towards thee, to thy vast and throbbing heart, evermore moving towards thee, to thy vast and throbbing heart.
We'll close now with Thou art my life. Thou art my love. Thou art the sweetness which I do seek. In the thought by my love brought, I taste thy name, so sweet, so sweet. Devotee knows how sweet you are. He knows whom you let know. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I do seek. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I do seek. In the thought by my love brought, in the thought by my love brought, I taste thy name, so sweet, so sweet. Devotee knows how sweet you are. Devotee knows how sweet you are. He knows who you are. He knows who you are. Thou art my life, thou art my life, thou art the sweetness which I receive. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I receive. In the thought my love brought, in the thought my love brought, I taste thy name, so sweet, so sweet. Devotee knows how sweet you are. Devotee knows how sweet you are. He knows who you are. He knows who you are. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I receive. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I receive. In the thought by my love God, in the thought by my love God, I taste thy name, so sweet, so sweet. Devotee knows how sweet you are. Devotee knows how sweet you are. He knows who you are. He knows who you are. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I receive. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I receive. In the thought by my love Lord, in the thought by my love, I taste thy name, so sweet, so sweet. Devotee knows how sweet you are. Devotee knows how sweet you are. He knows who you are. He knows who you are. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I receive. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I receive. In the thought by my love brought, in the thought by my love brought, I taste thy name, so sweet, so sweet. Devotee knows how sweet you are. Devotee knows how sweet you are. He knows who you are. He knows who you are. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I receive. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I receive. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I receive. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I receive. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I receive. Let's close by chanting Om together, sending out waves of healing light and vibration into the world. Om, peace. Amen. God bless you all.
Jai Guru.